Thank you so much again for joining us today for this session. We are actually very excited to be working with the intellectual schools in Ethiopia. It's actually our first time for MCE to actually be having any collaborations with any schools in Ethiopia. So we are very excited for any potential and future projects that we can embark on together. We also have planned a series of webinars for all of you to attend in the coming days and week. So today's webinar, First Steps, Integrating Social and Emotional Learning in Your Preschool Through Stories, is the first of the 4 webinars that we have planned. So I really hope after this session you have some really good things to take away from the whole webinars that we have planned for you. I also encourage you to join the future sessions that we have in the upcoming days, regardless if you are teaching the subject or not. I'm fairly certain that there will be some key points that you'll be able to take away for your teaching, and it will benefit you in some way or other. So without further delay, I will introduce our speaker, Wen Lin. She will be taking us through the entire webinar. Just some housekeeping rules. Just please ensure that your mic is turned on mute. So we'll just ensure that all the mics of your computer is on mute. And if you have any questions, you can actually type it out in the chat box, and we will go through them together at the end of the session. At the end of the session during the FAQ, you can either type out your questions or you can unmute your mic and proceed to ask us the questions. Thank you very much. Wen Lin, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Sha. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So let's start our webinar today. So in today's session, we'll look at social emotional learning, understanding what it is, the framework, as well as the different types of strategies that teachers can use. And we will be using examples from our First Steps program. Just now, some of you may have seen the product video that we have been showing before this webinar. So we'll be looking at that. And we will zoom in to understand how we can use stories to teach social emotional learning in class. And thereafter, I'll be introducing to you our program in detail before ending off with a Q&A session. So before we start, maybe I can just get some of the teachers here to just answer this question. In your opinion, what is social emotional learning? There's no right and wrong answer. You can just leave your answers in the Zoom chat box. Okay, so maybe, what do you think social emotional learning is? You can just leave it in the chat box for me. All right. Let me take a look at it. No, are there any answers, or it's all right? We can continue on first. If any of the teachers, you have any ideas, you can just leave them in the chat box, all right? So let us start. So, okay. Our emotions actually drive attention, and attention drives learning. So in other words, how you feel actually determines how well you learn. So of course, I'm sure as teachers, you must have felt this as well. So if you're feeling very stressed, very forced, or very trapped, you will not be able to learn well, and you will not be able to engage in higher levels of thinking or creativity. So when it's important to keep our emotions positive, because it allows us to think clearly and at advanced levels. So this is the reason why social emotional learning comes into play, because we help students to equip them with tools of self-regulation to manage their emotions, and also empower them to be resilient and problem solvers. So what is SEL? So SEL, basically, it's just a process whereby, we learn to develop a positive identity, to recognize and understand our emotions, to feel and show empathy, make decisions, and to build and maintain relationships. So it helps students and adults to thrive in school as well as in life later on. So with that in mind, we will introduce the social emotional learning framework. So the SEL framework actually highlights 5 social emotional skills that is emphasized in the preschool years. So namely self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, as well as responsible decision making. So we'll go in depth into each area later on. So over here, we have highlighted the 4 different benefits of social emotional learning development. So firstly, studies have shown that students who receive SEL instruction is found to have better academic performance. Next, students showed improved attitudes, such as they have greater motivation to learn. Thirdly, we also see fewer reports of student depression, anxiety, and stress. And lastly, SEL has successful in equipping children with 21st century skills. So some of these skills that we talked about includes problem solving, collaboration, creativity, adaptability, which helps students to not only navigate in their later years, but also prepares them for the ever-changing future. All right, so now after having a brief understanding of what SEL is, now let us look at some of the strategies that you can use to integrate SEL within your classroom. So as some of the SEL skills that we are trying to teach our children are not innate, it's something that doesn't get picked up by our young children naturally. It's important for teachers like yourself to deliver explicit lessons that teach social emotional skills. So and then you need to find opportunities for your students to reinforce their use throughout the day. So here we have 6 different explicit strategies that you can consider when you're implementing social emotional learning in class. So we'll be going one by one. So number 1, we're looking at modeling positive behavior. So children often learn by seeing and doing, right? So as teachers, you can model behavior such as being empathetic, admitting to mistakes that they make, and taking responsibilities. So for example, demonstrating empathy. So maybe in a classroom activity, you can say, hey, it looks like you need another block, perhaps I can share my block with you. So try to demonstrate an empathy to the students, and the students might model this behavior when they see it. Next, using dramatization and role play. So role play actually provides opportunities for children to act out a role of a particular person or a character in a very familiar story. So, it allows them to explore issues, attitudes, and behaviors. So, for example, when children role play in a scenario, maybe we say that, oh, it's in a hospital setting, and you can appoint students, some of them to be patients, some of them to be doctors. And then in this role play session, you will be able to allow them to show empathy. For example, you can set scenarios like, oh, the doctor's caring for the patients, asking them how they are okay, how they are, that kind of thing. So through this role play session, it allows students to try to be someone else, and they can learn all these important social skills along the way. Next, we have routines and transitions. It provides teachers with natural opportunities to inculcate social skills and self-regulation. So for example, children learn to self-regulate when they have to wait for their turn to take their snacks, or when teachers often end off a class with, hey, you need to tidy up your stuff, after you have use all these items. So by planning all these routines and transitions, it enables children to understand the importance of these skills, and then children will actually grow in confidence when they're able to do things themselves. Next, we have teachable moments. These teachable moments means it can occur anytime, and it actually involves the teacher thinking of different ways to actually involve the children to think constructively to deal with a problem. And then you can provide feedback to them, offer them suggestions, encourage them to try out different options. So, for example, in a play group setting, you see a student having a conflict, if the students are able to resolve the conflict themselves, you offer some suggestions, they say, all this kind of thing. Children start to think that, hey, I can handle this kind of difficult situation myself without a lot of assistance from my teacher, they actually feel a sense of confidence, and also they will gain a sense of social mastery. So these are the different strategies. Next, we have small group activities. This is pretty straightforward. When children, work in pairs or work in small groups, the important social skills like learning how to interact with one another, they learn how to work cooperative with one another, listen to one another. When there is some conflicts between them, how are they going to resolve those conflicts? So as teachers, we take a back seat, we encourage this type of interaction. And when we witness some good and positive attitudes from our children, we should acknowledge them. This gives them that kind of confidence that this is something that should be encouraged. Lastly, we have story, rhymes, and songs. So all these can be used to support the child's social emotional development. It can be used as a platform for children to talk about issues, feelings that they have, and then children can actually respond to the story in the form of discussions, drawings, or even role play. All right, so today we'll be focusing on using stories from our First Steps program as examples to understand how SEL instructions can be embedded in each lesson. So as mentioned earlier, we will zoom into the 5 key areas of the social emotional learning framework, starting with self-awareness. So self-awareness, so children, basically, children who have a clear understanding of their own strengths will develop a positive self-concept and self-worth. So, as a child with self-awareness, they will be able to identify what they like, what they don't like, and they recognize what they can or cannot do. They will also be confident in expressing and identifying their own emotions and telling others how they feel. So for example, children can talk about, the food or the toys they like or dislike. They can, when we are playing with games, they can suggest, hey, I'm good in this game or that game, when playing with their friends. So this is all part of the understanding of self-awareness. So now, we will look at how we can help children to identify their own strengths, likes and dislikes with this reader that we have called Glenda's New Glasses. I will stop share and toggle over to EduHub, whereby we will look at the story together. Let me just stop share for a moment and share this screen. Okay, so this is our EduHub, and I've actually just launch the digital reader. So let me just show you from this part onwards.
Let's choose some glasses now, says the optician. How about these with the purple glass? No thanks, says Glenda. Well, how about these glow-in-the-dark ones? Definitely not, says Glenda. Glenda chooses some glasses with glittery pink frames. I like these, says Glenda. I'm glad that I got new glasses. I can watch the television now.
All right, so this is just a very simple story that we have. So you see how, Glenda is actually choosing her new pair of glasses, how she actually said what she likes and dislikes. So let us toggle back to the presentation. So just give me a moment. Okay. All right. So just now, to reiterate, so from this story, Glenda actually expressed what she needs. She needs a new pair of glasses because she broke it. And then she identified the type of glasses that she likes. She doesn't like something that is glow in the dark, but she likes something that is that is pink and glittery. So from a simple story like this, we can actually teach children about self-awareness. So after reading the story with your students, you can often expand and ask them some questions. So for example, using the story, you can check if your children can identify Glenda's needs, likes and dislikes. Thereafter, you can prompt them and to relate to their own experience. So for example, say, oh, so do you wear glasses like Glenda? What colors do you like or dislike? So from there, this is part from this exercise of discussion, you're actually building your pupils' sense of self-awareness. Okay, so we have some other examples as well. So this is an example of an activity from our activity book called Sorting Vegetables. So we can see in this simple activity, we have 2 tables, I like and I don't like. So we can also elicit responses from our students and asking them to identify whether they like or don't like a particular vegetables, and then also help them to understand the reasons as well. They must be able to articulate that responses, and this is part of identifying their likes and dislikes. Or in another activity called This Is Me, you can get your students to draw a self-portrait, then get them to draw or paste pictures that he or she can do and what he or she likes and dislikes. So thereafter, you can even, extend beyond and, paste all these children posters around the classroom, or even get their peers to draw or write each other's posters, as they get to know their friends better. All right, so that is the first part on self-awareness. Now we look at self-management. So under self-management, right, children tend to see things often from their own perspective. So they may express their thoughts and emotions with little consideration for the feelings of others, and they may not be aware that what they have said or what they have done can actually affect others. So it's important for children to learn to have self-management. So it's essential for them to acquire this basic skills, such as being aware of the different feelings that they have, and recognize that some feelings that are positive, for example, happiness and love, it should be and can be shared with others. But if you're looking at negative feelings, like anger, jealousy, or fear, this is something that needs to be managed. So for example, when they're angry, they should try to talk about why they are angry, or try to, sort of resolve the disagreements they have with their peers or with their teachers, instead of choosing to hit them or shout at them. So these are important things that we need to inculcate to the children from young. So with all these skills that they have, right, children will be able to exercise self-discipline and take personal responsibilities. All right, so I'm sure as teachers, you would have come across some students who are a little bit naughty, they are rude and disrespectful in class, right? So how do we actually manage such behavior? So, before that, using first step readers such as Say Please Baxter, we will look at how, we can help children to express and, cope with their emotions appropriately. So the story starts with how, little Baxter over here, this little boy here is very rude, he demands the box from his father, and, but then he refuses to say please. And when he demands for the oranges from his mom, again, he refuses to say please. Then as the story goes, he was expressing, he was expressing explicitly that, he's not happy, he doesn't want to say please. So being able to identify and express an emotion like sadness or anger, or even more complex emotions like jealousy is very important for children at a young age, because that is actually the first steps towards better communication with others. All right, so moving forward, eventually, the story also provides some sort of a solution or method for young Baxter to manage his unhappy emotion. It moves on to illustrate that, once he say please, his uncle is willing to help him and everyone, is happy. So this story becomes something that children can learn and model after when they're actually going through this story. All right. So Similarly, after reading the story, you can engage your students in discussion, asking them questions such as, oh, what lesson does Baxter learn at the end of the story? Is it important to say please and thank you? And you can even ask your children, or do you say please when you want something? These are some of the questions that you can ask after reading. And in a classroom activity, you can even get your children to work in pairs or in groups, and look at some pictures over here. So over in this activity sheet, we have the different pictures. So, in a pair, they can practice and say, oh, may I have some sweets, please? Or may I have some apple? May I have an apple, please? All this kind of conversation is helpful. And then this part is part of reinforcing their learning of self-management. Okay, so that is what we have for self-management. Now let's move on to social awareness. So children with social awareness are able to recognize the feeling and perspective of others. They appreciate diversity and show respect for others regardless of their differences. So similarly, in our book, in our program, we actually embrace such diversity as well. So in First Steps Readers Keiko's New School, in the story itself, the learning of cross-cultural curiosity, understanding, and acceptance is actually embedded within the story itself. In another story, Welcome Whitney, it focused on inclusivity and acceptance on disabilities with the arrival of a new classmate called Whitney, who is on a wheelchair. So in the story, you can see her peers actually recognize the differences in terms of the physical appearances. Like, for example, Anita asked, what is wrong with her legs? Why is she in a wheelchair? This kind of questions shows that children actually do notice the differences. However, Whitney is a very positive girl. So, with Whitney's positivity and acceptance on her disability. So, for example, she say, oh, my legs don't work. I'm on a wheelchair, but, I can still play with you. So with this such positivity, she managed to make new friends and play together. So again, this is a story that actually students can learn when they meet someone with a disability. How should they react to it? All right. So again, after reading the story, you can ask the students some of these questions. What should you do when you are welcoming a new classmate? What do you think it will be like in a wheelchair? Putting your children in a perspective of others, to help them to understand better. And even in an extension activity, you can even teach students to look beyond our disabilities. We shouldn't constrain ourselves in that, right? So, we can consider what other things can Whitney do? Can Whitney sing? Can Whitney play with her friends? Can she draw? As students start to answer those questions, they will realize, actually, I'm actually not too different from Whitney. So, they will soon to realize that there's so much similarities between someone who has a disability and someone who is supposedly normal. So, they'll say that, this is actually not a big issue. I can still hang out and be friends with people, with my friends. All right, so this is what we have for social awareness. Next, we have relationship skills, which is actually the fourth key area of the social emotional learning framework. So under relationship skills, children need to learn that there are many possible outcomes, to a difficult situation, and each of them have a role to play. And as teachers, we need to give children the opportunity to solve problems and resolve conflicts themselves. So, and they need to be also be able to experience the benefits of working well with others. And, they will learn that, behavior such as taking turns or showing respect by learning, it's something that is socially acceptable, and it's something that we actually recommend. All right, so in this First Step Reader Sports Day, it illustrates, how the girls work together in a competition. But, when a teammate fell, like when Irma's fell, one of the child, Kirsty, actually stops to help. And even though the rest of the classmates actually continued jumping. So this led to her winning a medal from her teacher, and showed how that caring for a teammate is actually equally important as winning the race. So what you can do in class is that after you have read the story, you can actually replicate a similar race in class. And as teachers like yourself, you can choose to role play or appoint a student to role play as the student who actually fell, and then see how your other students actually respond to it. And after this mini race or game that you play, you can get your students to start thinking, what will you do if you're in Kirsty's position? How will you describe Kirsty? Did she make a good choice or not? This kind of discussion to elicit responses. All right. So next we have the fifth part, which is responsible decision making. So children need to learn to be responsible for their own actions. As teachers, we should not be actively doing things for them, because as they learn to become more independent, they will need to make their own decisions. So it's important to actually inculcate the importance of responsible decision making from young. And with SEL, we actually present opportunities for children to problem solve and then explore different options. And when they start to reason and themselves and have an explanation for their choice, they will also learn the consequence behind each decision. So for example, when they are using scissors, when they know that scissors is something that can harm another student or another person, when they're handling scissors moving forward, they will learn to be more careful. They need to consider their own safety as well as the safety of others. So this actually helps them. All right. So now let's look at some of the readers that we have to support responsible decision making. So in this First Steps readers called Save Our Forest, the story actually presents the effects of deforestation, including how it impacts the biodiversity, our ecosystem, and it prompts the children to think, how they can do their part in the decision to save the rainforest. So the story, of course, suggest some simple and easy solution. So by illustrating that, making responsible everyday decisions like using less paper, bringing their own recycle bag and not plastic bags, we are all actually helping the environment. So we can take one step further and prompt them to think, okay, so these are the different methods that the book has actually shown you. What are some of the other methods that you can take, to help the environment? And we can also reinforce the importance of protecting the environment by asking the children to write down, say, hey, what are things that I want to do to save our environment? What will you do? So it's sort of like a commitment to say that I want to do this to help to save, to help to protect our environment. All right, so this is part of the responsible decision making that we have. So in summary, children actually become more motivated to learn when they are able to understand and manage their own emotions, when they can interact with others and make responsible decisions. So when they experience success, in completing a task, or when they enjoy the satisfaction of like I'm able to contribute very positively to my team, they'll be more willing to cooperate and collaborate with others in the future. Okay, so with an understanding of what SEL is, I will now like to talk about our program, First Steps from Phonics to Reading. So all of the examples that you have seen earlier are extracted from this program. So now allow me to share with you the program. So First Steps is actually an effective and unique story-based whole language phonics program. It's designed for children learning English as a second, as well as a foreign language. It's suitable for children aged 4 to 7 years old. And with First Steps, we want to help teachers like yourself to develop young independent readers as well as effective communicators, equipped with strong phonemic awareness as well as 21st century competencies. So this is a very quick snapshot of our program components. We have 75 original stories. We have over 300 flashcards, 600 activities. We have 75 original songs, chants, and rhymes. We have digital readers and games. We have our program guides, which are lesson plans for teachers. And then, of course, we have PD modules as well. So with that in mind, this is the product architecture that we have. We have it over 3 different levels. And we'll be looking at the 4 key features of the First Steps as well. So now let me bring you through one by one. So firstly, our First Steps program actually adopts this unique balanced approach that emphasizes the development of the whole child. What we mean by that? So research has shown that, there are 2 skills that's necessary for reading: decoding and comprehension. But many of the existing phonics program in the market right now, they do focus on teaching children how to decode the words, and this methodology is called the synthetic phonics methodology. However, we realize that a lot of the students now, they may learn how to decode, but they may not actually understand what they're reading. So meaning when they see a word, from their understanding of phonics, they will be able to say the words out loud, but they actually don't really understand. And that is because they lack the day-to-day exposure to English. They actually have a lack of vocabulary knowledge. So to address this, our approach is that we want to combine the teaching of phonics as well as the regular exposure to the language through stories, and then coupled with some, vocabulary building activities, to allow children to communicate and make meaning more effectively in English. So what we want to do is that, just like I mentioned, a lot of the programs only use one method, which is synthetic phonics methodology. For First Steps, we actually draw on the combination of 3 phonics methodology: synthetic, analytic, and embedded phonics. So now we will take a look at a video whereby we will hear from the author what are these 3 distinct phonics methodology and how it works together in First Steps. All right, so now let me play the video.
The First Steps program essentially draws on 3 different approaches to phonics instruction. Synthetic phonics is a part-to-whole approach to teaching phonics, where words are broken up into the smallest units of sound known as phonemes. With a synthetic approach, children learn to make connections between the letters and the sounds of spoken language. They might see the word cat, and by using the sounds to decode the letters k, at, and blending those sounds together, they can make the word cat. As such, synthetic phonics is a helpful skill for decoding unknown words, but of course they also need to learn that a cat's a furry animal with a tail that goes meow. Analytic phonics is really the opposite of synthetic phonics. It's a whole-to-part approach to teaching phonics. Children are taught to recognize whole words by sight and later to break down the words into their smaller units of sound. This is a particularly helpful skill for learning to spell words and for recognizing word families such as cat, hat, mat, and sat, which all belong to the same word family. Embedded phonics advocates teaching phonics in context. So children might learn to decode and read the word shark in the context of a story about sharks. Embedded phonics involves instruction in sound-symbol relationships that's built into authentic reading experiences. Children learn phonics as they engage in meaningful reading and writing activities in the classroom. Thus, if you like, it's a meaning-based approach to teaching phonics, where children figure out unknown words by focusing on those words in the context of a story and by using phonemic clues. The First Steps approach, as I mentioned earlier, actually draws on all 3 of these approaches, and each has its benefits. Phonics is embedded in the context of meaningful reading experiences, but at the same time, phonemic awareness is built through a range of synthetic and analytic activities that help draw the children's attention to word segmentation and word blending.
So I hope that video will actually gives you an illustration of what the 3 phonics methodology is like. So what we really want to convey is that with First Steps, we put a very strong emphasis in using authentic stories as the springboard for learning. We don't really subscribe to decodable readers like this. You know, pet the cat is fat, pet sat on a mat, pet ate a rat. You know, this is not how we would normally speak in day-to-day language, and this is written in a rather forced language in our opinion. And these readers, not they are not good, but they are designed purely as a way of reinforcing and consolidating the phonics learned. So instead, we want to use stories written in a very natural language as a medium to inspire children's natural creativity, you know, helps them to develop great oral skills as well as good vocabulary knowledge. So again, we have 75 readers across 3 different levels, as you can see over here. And for every single print reader, we have a digital and animated version. And how do we split the 3 different levels? For level 1, we have 26 readers, and they actually introduce sounds that correspond to the 26 letters of the English alphabet. For level 2, we have 25 readers. They look at digraphs and high frequency consonant blends that occur at the beginning of the words. And then for level 3, we're looking at diphthongs, beginning, middle, and ending sound of words. So based on what we have shared, these are a complete phoneme focus for our program. Okay, so with our program, rest assured that students will learn all the 44 sounds of the English language, learn how to blend them together to read, write, and spell, and of course, be able to recognize 100 most common English sight words. This is important because, you know, these 100 common sight words actually make up around 50% of all the written print in the English language. So these words are known as ready reader words in our program, and these words include like is, she, in, you know, some of these words actually do not follow the regular phonemic pattern, so it's important for them to recognize by sight so that, you know, students won't spend time decoding those words. And the ability to recognize those words by sight also allows them to become more confident and more fluent when they are reading. Okay. And all of 75 readers actually has a range of text types. So we have readers that we have different text types, including like riddles, rhymes, fantasy, folklore, and fable. So the intention for us to introduce such a wide range of text type is because we want to give children a rich language exposure. We want them to be exposed to as much text types as possible from young. Okay, so now we'll look at another example. Let me stop sharing and head over to EduHub to show you this book that we have called Very Steady. All right, let me just share my screen again. Okay. We go on to First Steps, level 1. Okay, can look at Very Steady. So this is the digital reader. So we can perhaps just take a look at the reader first.
Danny Duck and Daddy Duck are playing hide and seek. 1, 2, 3. Is that Daddy? No, it's a little doll. Is Daddy there?
Okay, so the story will go on. So what we have over here is the animated version of the story. So as you can see, actually it provides a narration of the story. So, you know, teachers can actually use it in class during frontal teaching. They can just flash this up during classroom time. So apart from the digital readers, there are a few other functions that we have. We have an original song. So let me just play for you the song.
Where is Daddy? Where is Daddy? Where is he? Where is he?
Okay, so of course, with songs, I'm sure many of you actually remember songs from like when you are young. So, and this is the reason why we actually decided to make sure that we have one song per reader, is because we feel that songs are highly memorable. They are especially useful in helping children to reinforce, be it the vocabulary or the sounds. So, for teachers, you can choose to use the songs at the start or at the end of the class, to sort of help them to lead into the class, or or as a reinforcement. Again, we also have the ABC and Goodbye song. These two are more generic songs that teachers may choose to use. Now we have the digital flashcards. So here are the 5 flashcards or 5 words that we have selected for this particular reader.
Dinosaur. D.
So as you can see, our flashcards, it allows the children to actually practice and recognize the different words, and also learn to recognize the letter sound. So this is important, and this is also part of the synthetic phonics methodology that we use. And apart from flashcards, we also have some mini activities. So over here in this example, listen and choose the picture.
Donkey. Doll.
Okay, so normally we will have these mini activities available for each reader. You can see that we use back the same characters. So the mini activities serve as like a simple review tool for teachers, just to assess with the children whether they have actually understand those words. So we can recognize that actually these photos or these illustrations are from our flashcards. So in this activity, what we are trying to assess the student is that whether they actually understood the listening part, whether they understood the instructions, and whether they can match with what they hear with the picture actually being shown. Okay, so this is the digital readers that we have. Let me stop sharing, and I will head over to the presentation again. So let me just reshare. Okay. All right, the next part is the second feature, is whereby our program actually encourages interactive and multisensory learning. So using our sight, hearing, movement, and touch, our wide array of activities in our activity book and program guide actually allows children to have more than one way to connect with what they are learning. So for example, in this activity on the left, as in the sand, we encourage children to tap on their sense of sight, touch, and sound to connect with the learning of the letter S and its sound. Or in this activity over here on the right, we get the children to jump when they hear a J word, because we are engaging them in movement games. So these multisensory games are important because we believe that every children is unique. They have different learning styles and different learning inclinations. Some of them are visual learners, some of them are kinesthetic learners. So this is the reason why we have different types of multisensory learning activities over here. And of course, we still have ample writing exercises to build on the children's vocabulary knowledge. And over at the right, you can see this activity called Float or Sink. So we do introduce cross-curricular learning, by integrating science, music in our lessons. So for example, we include this early science experiment to get the children to hypothesize and find out which objects actually float or sink. So next we have the SEL skills. I think we have covered quite a great part in the earlier session. So every single reader that we have actually has a distinct SEL focus. Okay, so these are some of the readers that we have, like Our Plastic Planet, importance of protecting our planet, you know, emphasizing the need to raise this importance and awareness. All right, so next I would like to talk about our teachers' resources. So we do provide a comprehensive set of teachers' resources. So we have the program guide over at the left-hand side, and we also prepare the classroom slides that teachers can use for frontal teaching as well. So we do have some supporting resources as well, like handwriting practice. We have flashcards in our program, so we provide some game ideas, so that teachers will know, you know, how they can actually use the flashcards to play some games in the classroom. We mentioned the ready reader words, the sight words that we have. We prepare them in cutout so that, you know, if teachers like yourself would like to go through the different sight words with the children, you can just print them out and then flash them in class. And of course, at the end of the program, we have a completion certificate. So for our program, for each reader, we have 2 lessons, core and consolidation, and each lesson is about 45 minutes, which can be easily expanded to an hour. I feel that the beauty of this program is that we make things really very flexible. So if you have more time, we will, of course, we will encourage you to complete all our activities in our core and consolidation lesson. But let's say if you have lesser time in your curriculum, no worries. If you want to only complete the core lesson and pick out perhaps 1 to 2 activities in the consolidation part, that's perfectly fine as well. All right, so all our lessons are structured in 4 simple steps. Step 1, where we look at a lead-in. So normally a short activity that stimulates the children's interest. So just like I mentioned, songs are a great way for lead-in. Then we have step 2, the story, which is the main part of the lesson. So over here, you know, we have the before reading, during reading, and after reading. I will be using an example to show you later on. So step 3, activity. So we have follow-up activities that encourage children to practice the target sound for each book. And then for step 4, we have a roundup, basically a recap of what is learned. Okay, so now I will head over to EduHub to show you where you can find our teachers' resources. And then I'll be using this particular level 1 book 7 core lesson to actually show you the 4-step approach. Okay, so allow me to stop share again, whereby I toggle back to EduHub. Okay, so just now, the digital readers, they are available under My Library. So for teachers' resources, you just have to go to My Resources. You can head over to Resource Bank, and you'll be able to find First Steps. So over here, so just now I mentioned that we have the lesson, classroom slide for teachers. We have 2 lessons per reader, so core and consolidation. Okay, and then we have the supplementary resources. So just now I mentioned about the handwriting practice. So teachers, you can actually just download our document over here and then print it out and allow your students to practice. That's okay as well. So here are the other resources that we have. So now let me just show you one of the classroom slides that I have downloaded. So just now we mentioned step 1 is lead in. So we like to start with a song. You can use the digital reader to launch the song. And then we look at step 2, which is a story. So over here at story, we have a few stages. So at before reading, we often want to get the children to be interested in the story and then get them to think and guess, you know, what type of story would it be. So, you know, what do you think? So we ask them some questions like, oh, you know, let's read the book title together, and ask them questions like, oh, what do you think the story is about? And then we proceed with the first reading. So the first reading at this stage, we want to achieve an uninterrupted reading experience. So over here, your objective is to just read the story to your students using the print readers, or you can use our digital readers that we have shown you. Just launch it online, and then you can read together in class. And then we move on to second reading. So at second reading, again, you read through the story, but at certain junctures where you feel that you want to ask your students some questions, that is the time to do so. And then you can also take the opportunities to get them to learn the different words and phoneme and letter sound together. Okay, then after reading, we will look at the different words and practice saying it together. And also, we can check whether the students actually understood the story. So, to check whether they have understood, we can ask them some questions like, oh, what animal is Danny? What is Danny playing with? And then SEL, you can ask questions that is related. So for example, because it's about a story of Danny Duck looking for his father, right? So have you ever lost your mom or dad? What happened? How do you feel? So the intention is to actually be able to link back to the children's experience, their own prior experience, and then share that with you during classroom. Okay, so now we move on to the step 3, which are activities. So here you can see we have some sorting games, we have some writing exercises, letter formation exercises over here, before we end off with round up, which is the recap. So just now we mentioned how SEL, we want to instill the different transitions and making sure that they actually do some different routines. So for example, we instill that let's tidy up together after every lesson, and then recap what are some of the things we have learned today. Can you draw the letter D with your finger in the air? If you want, you can again get your students to sing the song with you. Okay, so this is a sample of how a classroom or a lesson would be like in this program itself. So now let me just toggle back to the presentation. Okay, let's see. Okay. Oh, sorry, let me just fast forward. Okay, so yeah, so in summary, I just want to recap what we have shared with you for this program. So firstly, our program actually adopts this unique whole language balance approach. It draws on the 3 different types of phonics methodology: synthetic, embedded, as well as analytic. It encourages multisensory learning. It promotes social and emotional learning, which actually helps them to impart, which helps them to develop important 21st century skills. And then lastly, we just want to reassure all the teachers that our program, it's easy and simple to teach, and everything we provide to you is step by step. All right, so I think that's the end of this presentation. Yep. So if you have any questions, feel free to actually just leave them in the chat box and we can look at them together. Yep, so thank you. So if you have any questions, you can just ask me in the Zoom chat box right now. Thank you. Are there any questions pertaining to the program or anything that you'd like to clarify with me? So is the teacher's guide or instruction print or digital? Okay, so all our resources, they are in, they actually have 2 parts. So we have the program guide in print format, and then we also have the classroom slides that you see just now in digital. So we have both actually, yeah, but they serve different function. The digital part is more for you to access the lesson, the lesson slides, as well as the the digital readers. That is actually a very important tool. And for the print side, we have the program guide with the detailed lesson plan to show you. Okay, this 3 level is for 1 year teaching or more. Okay, so we normally recommend that for 1 level, it actually is for 1 year. So this is actually, we recommend this to be a 3-year program. Okay. Are there any more questions? Okay, so if any of the teachers are interested and you would like to take a look at our samples, please feel free to contact us. You can request the samples and we will actually get back to you. All right.
Thank you, Verlene. Thank you so much. This was a really good
Thank you,
presentation.
Sha.
Okay, so I really hope everyone had a very good and enjoyable and fruitful session. We will be giving out trial accounts and samples for all the teachers to have a look. We will connect with the principal to distribute all these logins and all that for all the teachers to have a look, to have a feel of how the whole program works. So you can see the sample chapters, you can see the videos, you'll be able to see samples of the teacher's guide as well. Yeah, so can I know if there are any other questions?
Okay, I don't think there are any other questions. No worries.
Yeah. So feel free to drop us an email. I am just going to quickly key in my email into the chat box. So anytime you can drop me an email after this if you have any question that pops up, any queries about the whole entire package. I'm very happy to be able to help you. So my email is on the chat box. Otherwise, thank you again, everyone, for joining us for this session. And I look forward to seeing all of you for the future session in the coming days and week. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.